Happy Saturday. Welcome to the channel. I am today going to be talking about an article I found and a topic that I've been talking about for a while, which is automation and how it is going to affect us. And today in particular, I am going to be talking about how it affects hiring practices of the future and some of the challenges that recruiters have. So I'm going to tie in my experience as a recruiter with this article that is coming to us from Harvard Business Review. And there's a lady by the name of Frida Holy. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that name correctly, but she did an article or wrote an article in 2019, and it was titled Using AI or Artificial Intelligence to Eliminate Bias from Hiring. And Frida is a neuroscientist who uses her knowledge to talk about topics in relation to artificial intelligence, automation, and behaviors and practices, and correlates that to the human resources world or talent management world. So in this article, there's basically three main things that Frida is trying to say will help us basically make better hiring decisions by eliminating biases that we have as humans. So when I say bias, I'm just talking about, any prejudice for or against, because you can have bias towards something. So let's say I have a preference towards women versus men, for example. Not saying that is true, but that would be an example. And then maybe I have a bias against a certain group of people. So that would be what we're saying is bias. So it's basically unfair biases is normally what we're talking about when it correlates to hiring. So let's get into this article. I don't know if this will show well in the playback, but she's basically talking about the different technology advances that we have in front of us, where we can use more artificial intelligence tools to help with these three key things. So the first thing that she's talking about is really just the fact that we as humans actually have a lot of biases that we take when we're making hiring decisions. So for example, reviewing applications and reviewing resumes. I talk about this a lot, or have talked about it a lot on this channel. The fact that there are certain things that recruiters will specifically look for in a resume, and there's things that you shouldn't do when you're writing a resume that may count against you. So for example, like spelling errors, having a resume that's too long and not clear and concise to the point, or really clarifying what you've actually done in a specific role. Also not using specific keywords that recruiters may like to see because that's what they're specifically looking for in the job that they're recruiting for. So that's one of the biggest things that I see people mess up with their resume, is not having specific keywords that a recruiter is looking for, or doing some of these, I won't say they're terrible, but just having those spelling errors, grammar errors, having the book of a resume that's like 5 pages long. And so doing things like that can contribute to some biases. Also, when people put their photo on their resume, which I talk about a lot, I tell people not to put their picture on their resume because you push more of the biases. So if I didn't know what age you were, I see your photo, I know that you're probably 50 years old, or I know that you're a woman versus a man. Some of that. And hello, Victoria Shay, welcome. Thanks for joining. So these biases that we as humans have, it's not like we can turn it on and turn it off necessarily. We can keep them in check. We can realize that we have certain biases. But as a human, we have biases, one, to actually protect us. So like if I see a bear running towards me, I have a bias towards a bear that they are dangerous. So I'm going to probably run away versus the cat was walking towards me, have a bias to maybe pick up the cat and pet it. I don't know. So these biases that we have. So what Frida really is pushing is that, hey, we need to use artificial intelligence to address the unconscious biases that we humans have when we're making these hiring decisions. And specifically, she calls out that there have been numerous studies that have shown this process that recruiters review resumes, review applications, right, or hiring managers. Well, it leads to significant unconscious bias against women, people of color. She uses the word minorities. I don't like that. There has been a trend, thankfully, of people not using the word minority. I wish she hadn't have used that word. But people of color is really what she's talking about here. Specifically, probably, your Hispanic groups, African American groups. And then older workers, which I don't think gets enough shine. I don't think enough of us talk about biases that actually happen to older workers. So someone that's been working 20, 30 years, maybe they were laid off or they want to do a career change. Well, they do have some struggles because of their age and some biases that people have based on someone's age. Off the top of my head, and I made a video about this, but a lot of times older workers are not seen as tech savvy. They're not seen as being the ones that are going to be really quick multitaskers and can easily jump in and be flexible. There's even negative biases towards older people in the workplace, thinking that they are going to take your job, or they want to not do menial tasks. They want to just manage people. So there's a lot of biases when it comes to even older workers, which will affect anyone if they keep living on this earth, right? If they're in the job market. Let me pause to see some comments. Hi, Barry, you did make it to a stream. Welcome. Oh, it seems like, oh yes, we probably do cross paths. Oh my gosh, did I miss you live today? Please note that when you turn on memberships, I will be one immediately. Oh, thank you, Barry. Awesome. I appreciate that. You don't think their biases will find their way into the programming? I do, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. Yes. But again, I'm reading through kind of this article from Frida, who's a neuroscientist that makes this content about automation and how we can use it into the talent management space. I'm going to hold on to that comment, King and Kill. Thank you. So the next point that she has is one that I struggle with a lot, because there is such a large pool of talent of candidates that recruiters and hiring managers, we can't feasibly get to. Like if someone applies to a job and there's 300 applications, who is going to look at that if they have 25 other job openings that they need to also manage? You're only dealing with one person. Like I'm only one person, I'm one recruiter. So this is why I often tell people to really focus on the jobs that you can apply to as soon as the job is posted. Like within that week, or at the latest, probably that second week, in most cases. It's not always the case, but in a lot of cases, the recruiters are going to look at those candidates that have come in the soonest, especially for those jobs that there's going to be more applications for. The job criteria aren't as strict. So for example, administrative assistants. A lot of people can qualify for that job most times. Recruiters. A lot of people can qualify for that job. It's not like you have to go to school for 10 plus years to be a recruiter. Marketing jobs, like pretty generic marketing specialists, your entry level jobs a lot of the time. If there's not a specific niche skill, so let's say it's a technical recruiter, well, now we're getting into a niche area where it's going to probably take a little more time to find someone. Once you get into those niche fields, then I would say, okay, if the job's been open for a couple of weeks, go ahead and apply. But if it's pretty general, most cases, the recruiter or hiring manager is going to be looking at those folks that came in the soonest. They get them into the process, they interview them, and then they kind of back away from the job because they want to see how these folks move out. They're not going to keep looking at the next 200 people that come through. So one of the stats in here I thought was really interesting. They call out that an average of 250 applicants are going to be placed to one job. So if there's one job posting, we can assume generally that there's 250 applicants to that job. That's insane. Like, do you really think that one recruiter is managing that whole process, is going to look at every single person, deeply looking at every single resume? It's not going to happen. So the other thing I wanted to call out is that literally equates, she did the math for us, to millions of applicants to a few thousand job openings, right? The next thing I want to point out is that she highlights this, and I know this is true because I've been working in this field. Recruiters limit their review of applicant posts to 10 to 20%, to the 10 to 20% that actually show the most promise. Yes, this is definitely true. We're going to prioritize the people that look good on paper. So this is why I talk about resume writing and why it's so important and why that is your advertisement, because it's like, hey, look at me above these other 250 people. I'm your girl. This is why I can paint that story in a really clear and concise way, and I can speak your language using those keywords that you're looking for. Bam, I'm going to want to see that resume first. Now, this other person that's got a couple spelling errors, they got this long book or resume, I can't weed it through in like 10 seconds. Let's hold on you. Let's see about this other girl. So let's say Barry has this outstanding resume. Barry, I'm going to be focusing on you first. Let's say Minister Terrence came in. He's got a good resume, but he doesn't have all the things that I'm looking for, but Barry does. So I'm going to go with Barry. Let's put Minister Terrence on the side for a minute and let's move in the process. So what happens to Minister Terrence's resume? It's stuck in limbo. It's in the applicant system. Barry's moved along the process, probably gets hired because of the resume and because I can't feasibly look at all of those applicants. Minister Terrence could have been great, a great match for the job, but feasibly, am I going to look at 250 applicants when I have 25 other jobs? Just not going to happen. So she paints this picture that automation can help us with actually looking at all of those applicants and then using, to King of Kill's point, some programming to decide who moves forward in the process and moves people along that way. So at least everyone actually gets that view versus I haven't even looked at Minister Terrence's resume, really. Or maybe I didn't even get to you. Maybe Barry applied within 24 hours, and then let's say Victoria Slichet applied 3 weeks after. Barry's already interviewing. I haven't looked at a job. It's kind of like on tunnel vision, whatever. I haven't even looked at Victoria Slichet just because of the process that we're in. So that's the main point there. Let me check this the chat because I did see Minister Terrence. Welcome in. Oh, you are a member. Well, welcome to the membership, Barry. Thank you. Yes, I did. I clicked the button this morning. I have had memberships for a while. I'm changing a few things. I'm adding to my membership. So I've had them for a while. So there may be a few more perks that you'll see after it gets reviewed. Quick tip about memberships. You have to, anytime you add on a perk, it goes under YouTube review. So, so yes, thank you, Barry, for joining the membership. And hello, Minister Terrence, welcome in. So I do want to address King of Kill's comment. Would that make your career obsolete? For me, are you talking about my career? I don't think so, just because I have a lot of niche skills. So for example, if someone's looking for a technical recruiter, I've done that. I can move into that. If someone's looking for a recruiter for sales, I can move into that. If someone's looking for a recruiter that has done small company, agency, large, global company, I fit into that skill set, which is something else that I'm going to get into my next point. where there is a lot of bias based on past experience, like these already existing systems kind of placed in hiring. So we're going to talk about that, which is the next point here. So she brings up the point of traditional hiring tools that are already biased. And I want to talk about that for a minute because it is very true. So let's say this one company, they've only ever hired people that have come from private universities. Only private universities, right? So they hired me because I went to a private university over someone that went to a public school. Just because that's just how they've always done it. That's just how they've always done it. So she points out that this is permitted by a loophole in US law. Federal regulations state that a hiring tool can be biased if it is job related. So the job related means that the people who are successful in a role show certain characteristics. But if all successful employees are white men, due to a history of biased human hiring practices, that is almost certain that your job-related hiring assessment will have bias towards white men and against women, and she uses the word minority, I'm going to use the word people of color. So they paint this example that I do like as well, an African-American woman from a non-Ivy League college who is lucky enough to become part of the pipeline, whose resume is reviewed and who passes the human recruiter evaluating her resume, may then be asked to take a biased assessment, right? And there's this whole thing that has happened with the SATs and ACT tests that high schoolers take because they found that there is bias in those assessments. So even from the assessments, from things that we just always did, just because, hey, the best people come from this school. How do you actually know that if you haven't tried anything different? The best people get a certain grade on this assessment. They can pass this particular assessment. Well, how do we know that if we haven't hired people that maybe haven't taken that assessment, or maybe we changed up the assessment? So that's what she's getting at. So I do agree with that, because I have dealt with that in the past with when a company is trying to diversify, yet they only want someone from this industry because they know that people can do the job well and they can be successful in the job. Well, how do you change things up if the only people that have come from this specific industry, or for example, white women? Well, how do you diversify from there? You want men, you want, diverse talent or people of color, but you also only want people from this industry. So it gets very tricky when you address those things. Now, I do, King of Kill, to your point earlier, I think that AI is not 100%. I don't think that's 100% the answer. The one thing that I think it can help us with are getting through the large pools of candidates. That's where I think it can be the most helpful to use artificial intelligence. Now, with a lot of these biases, I do feel like the programming can only go so far. Even if you try your best to weed out the programming or the biases via the programming, there is still some point where candidates will have to meet an actual person. Now, if we're saying we're going to use AI throughout the full process and let the computer hire, I do see a host of issues with that. One, an employee never meeting their manager, a manager never meeting their employee. Now we have some just general people issues that who's going to have to handle? Your HR people. And then we're back to square one when it comes to the hiring. Then they're just like, we're not doing this anymore because that failed. So there's a lot of things that I think about using artificial intelligence when it comes to hiring, but the biggest key that I feel it can help is the just sheer pipeline of candidates that we have. So what she's saying is that AI can assess the entire pipeline of candidates rather than forcing time-constrained humans to implement biased processes. You shrink the pipeline from the start. Only by using a truly automated top-of-funnel process can we eliminate the bias due to shrinkage or shrinking the initial pipeline to the capacity of the manual recruiter can handle it. It is shocking that companies totally unabashedly admit how only a small portion of the millions of applicants who apply are ever reviewed. Yes. So I think that is the biggest way that it can help. Now, some of these other points, AI can eliminate unconscious human bias. I think it might be able to help. But no, because people are still going to meet a person at some point. And a lot of times the bias does come on the front end when we're looking at someone's resume, but there's also bias during the interview process, right? So yeah, those are my thoughts. Interested to hear what you guys think. I'm going to look at some of the chats here. Oh, I want to start my own call center for a company. I think that's smart, starting a call center now, in some ways, because I do think there's automation that is coming for call centers as well. Because here's the thing, and this is why I keep talking about automation. You go to, for example, Walmart. You guys know I have a bias towards Target versus Walmart, but occasionally I do go to Walmart for some things. You go to Walmart, and I'm telling you, it's hard to actually get a person. It's like you go there and there's like, I don't know, 10 self-checkouts and 2 people. You call your bank, you call whatever service. I talk about Bitcoin sometimes. My one couple of pet peeves with things like Coinbase, you can't get anyone in person. You call them up, you get robots. Automation, right? So yeah, I think using automation in some way would help with a call center type of service. So good luck, Victorious Shay. But just keep in mind, automation can be a tool that can help you as well. All right, so I'm going to close this out. Thank you so much, Barry, for joining the membership. I appreciate you. And for anyone that's interested in the memberships, what I foresee for the memberships is just you getting more content from me and being the first to know. So things like blogs, thank you to everyone that actually commented on my post where I was asking what do you want for memberships. And then also I want to have more just content that I am kind of leery about talking about with just everyone that may be a little touchy-feely. I'd rather have those conversations with people that I know and who are going to be respectful and open-minded, and let's just talk. So those are some perks that you're going to get with memberships, and of course more blogs, because I hear people like blogs. I didn't realize people like blogs because I come to YouTube more so to get education, to support people, just to learn more so. I use it more as a learning tool. Quick hits with some animal, fun, heartwarming videos or funny videos, and then I'm off. So I learned that people want blogs. So I'll have some blogs coming. Yes, that's how it is when they call us at the company I work for. The computer, yeah, the robots. It's like, can I just get a real person? So that would be actually Victoriously Shay. I would be willing to pay more just to know that when I have a need or when I need something, I am going to actually talk to a person that speaks my language, can fully understand me. Not trying to be but there are sometimes you call centers and you can tell they don't fully understand what you're talking about because of the language barrier. And it's like, can't I just get somebody that speaks my language and fully understands? I don't care if it's their second language or whatever, but make sure they fully can understand me and I can fully understand them. And it's just a real person. That's what I want. So I would be willing to pay more for companies if they did that. When I moved to Arizona, I noticed I would get hired very quickly than I would when I was in Tennessee and Georgia. Interesting. I wonder why. I don't know much about Arizona, to be honest, but Tennessee, I think it depends on where you are and the people. But yes, I think I would have some challenges. I get the feel for Tennessee is similar to St. or Missouri. I get the same vibe whenever I visited there. Fun things to do in like Nashville and stuff, but yeah, I don't know. I don't get the feeling that it's very diverse and people are very open minded. Now, this is me making a generality. If you're from Tennessee or you know someone from Tennessee, please don't take it to heart. But it does remind me of Missouri, and those are some of the thoughts that I have about Missouri and why I'm not doing now. Right, exactly. Exactly. It's because of the outsourcing. Exactly right. Okay, well, this is all I wanted to bring to the channel. I wanted to bring up this topic. Again, this is from an article put out by the Harvard Business Review. This is from Frida Polly. She makes a lot of different content geared towards artificial intelligence and talent management and HR topics. And she's a neuroscientist, so I thought it would be interesting to kind of see her viewpoint here and see what she had to say about the topic of artificial intelligence. So I definitely appreciate everyone being here. Ah, interesting. Arizona is very diverse. Okay, I need to visit Arizona then. It's definitely on the list of places that I want to visit. So I'll have to make a trip out that way. All right, well, that is it. 3 ways that Frida Polly thinks that artificial intelligence can help the hiring process and make it less biased is through less humans review, like less humans reviewing these applications, then being able to review a larger pool of applicants, and then also getting rid of some of those traditional hiring practices. But companies would have to make the effort to say, we don't want our system to push people forward based on these traditional hiring decisions. So I think it still comes back to the people. The one area I think that it can help is just by making sure that every candidate actually gets a review and has a shot at potentially getting a new job. So with that, thank you all so much for being here, and I will see you guys in the next video. I have a couple different topics coming up. Some of them job related, others not so job related, but I will be talking about 10 things successful women can do to do differently to get ahead. Why do millennials resent baby boomers, if I can get the word out? I'm also going to be talking about job seeker struggles and how to get past them. Where did the idea of acting white come from? Acting white. And some other topics coming soon. So thank you again, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, lovely people, and have a great Saturday.